So recently, I was reading this book called Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, and it really got me thinking. It was a good book in my opinion. I like fantasy. You can definitely see his religious views coming through on it, but still, I really thought it was a good book. I gave it a 5 stars. It's definitely one of my favorites. Um, but I'm kind of easy to please with fantasy books, I guess. And it really got me thinking, and I would like to talk a little bit about fighting porn and failing at your fight of porn. Um, this is something that a lot of these thoughts were very much so directly inspired by the book Oathbringer. And so I just wanted to share some of them with you. Um, the first thing is a quote from one of the characters, and I'll read that to you. It says, "The question," she replied, "is not whether you will live, I'm sorry, whether you will love, hurt, dream, and die. It is what you will love, why you will hurt, when you will dream, and how you will die. This is your choice. You cannot pick the destination, only the path." And it really got me thinking, we are born into situations we didn't choose. And one day we will die. There's nothing we can do to change that or to alter that. And typically we will, not really be able to choose the day of our death. Our choices might have some some influence there. Um, for instance, if I walk out in front of traffic, I have a higher rate of dying at a younger age. If I smoke, if I do drugs, these are things that will lower my statistically lower my chances of a longer life. Um, but you get what I'm saying. I make myself laugh. Um, but that just really stuck out to me. Um, it's not whether you will love, hurt, dream, and die. You're gonna have those things, but you get to pick how you deal with that. So you're born into a situation that you can't control. You'll die one day. But what do you do here in the middle? See, oftentimes what we do is we take where we are and we just kind of complain about it, right? Maybe we're complaining about our parents. Maybe we're complaining about our situation, our job, our finances, our I don't know, pick something. And we're just disgruntled and we're whatnot. But the thing is so then what are we going to choose to do in that? You will love, you will hurt, you will dream and die, but you can choose what you will love, why you will hurt, when you will dream, and how you will die. It's your choice. And you might say, well, what does this have to do with porn? Well, actually, surprisingly a lot. One of the big reasons, if not the biggest reasons, why you fail at trying to get over porn is because you need it. You need the comfort. You need the relief. You need the pleasure. I mean, if you just typically look at the just average Joe, right? The times of extreme stress, you're going to find increased porn activity. Why is that? Because you're just looking for a little relief. And I think at the heart of it, that's really what everybody's looking for. Just a little bit of relief. And so you find yourself in a place of lacking those things, lacking pleasure and relief and comfort, and just being in a place of need and not having it. So when you have these desires to look at porn, it reveals something. It reveals something very important. It reveals what's missing. It reveals what's missing. So if you want to win your fight against porn, do you want to win? Well, if you really want to win, loosen porn's grip on your life. And you might say, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? So I'm looking at porn because I'm hurt. Okay, so you're saying it's an effect, not a cause. Okay. So then what do? Heal. heal. If you want to win your struggle with porn, you have to remove porn's grip on your heart. And that can only be achieved by healing. If you've got a spiritual need, you're never going to be able to fill that. If you've got an emotional need, you cannot ignore that. You've got mental need. You cannot ignore that. We are people. We are not robots. We have needs, things that need to be answered to. And I will say this, you're going to fight stronger in porn or anything when you don't need to prove it. As a Christian, when I was younger, I went to a church that I was definitely not accepted. And so I tried to earn my acceptance, and I tried to earn my salvation. And that didn't work out real well. And there was always more that I could do. And I got tired, and it just wore me out because I was fighting from a place of trying to earn it. Now you take the person who is secure in themselves. Now I don't mean that in like a huffed up new age, find your inner peace and all this nonsense, as if there was inner peace. If there was any inner peace, I think I would have found with how many nights I've stayed up thinking about my problems. Come on, really. Anyways, but someone who is secure in the fact that God made them, God loves them, that they don't have to prove their worth to people. Not only do they sleep better, but then when they love and serve people, they do it from a position not of hurt, but of wholeness. And so they don't get tired because, in the same way, they still get tired. But they don't get tired in the same way because they're not trying to prove themselves, trying to be driven, trying to be more successful, trying to be accepted, trying to prove that they're worthy, trying to prove that they're worth time, trying to prove that they're not a waste of time, a waste of space. See, you can love and serve people when you do it from a hurt heart. You're just wearing yourself out. It's the same thing with porn. When you're dealing with porn and you're trying to fight it from a place of being wounded, you're weaker because you're wounded, but then also you're trying to fight the very thing that you're using for medication. But if you heal the underlying hurt, you don't need the medication anymore. Right? Who takes Tylenol if they're not injured? So you can focus on the people who hurt you, or you can grow from it. You're going to look back at people in your life, key times, and you're going to say, look at what they've done to me. I'm like this because of them. It's their fault. You can do that. You can focus on the people who hurt you. You can focus on everything that's wrong, or you can grow from it. You can look at that bad situation and say, look what this could make me. Look what I can learn. Look how I can use this as my motivation. I almost died in the hospital in 2012. And now here we are years later. I went through the stages of grief. I was on death's doorstep. It's a miracle I'm still alive. Then I went through a phase of just trying to please myself, and that's still something that I struggle with. And trying to prove, that I'm worthy when so many other people at the same time died, and I lived. And it's that survivor's guilt. And so I could look at that and say, look what this has done. Look at the long-term complications that it's given me. Look at the, the lack of sleep that it's given me. Look at the financial debt that it's given me. Look all these different things, right? We can look at all those things that have hurt us, and we can just focus on them. Or we can look on the other side and say, but look how this has affected me. And then we can use that as our motivation. For the second year in a row, I've done fundraising through my biking. So while I'm fighting depression for myself, I'm also raising funds to help other people. Why? Because I'm at the other side of death's door. I'm not walking through into eternity anymore. I've healed. So you can look at those things that have hurt you. And I know you're probably thinking, this doesn't have anything to do with porn. It really does. A hurt heart has a lot to do with porn. Show me somebody who looks at porn and I'll show you somebody that's hurting. You can focus on the people who hurt you, or you can grow from it. You can ask things like, what can I learn from this? Who can I be from this? The goal isn't to not have pain in your life. That's not the goal of life. Sometimes we look and say, oh, this pain, if I can only get rid of it. The goal of life is not to have no pain. It's to learn from the pain. Every person's experience in life is different from everyone else's. And you can learn something that other people have not really experienced. And other people learn things that you're not going to experience. So are you going to look back at the things and be bitter about them and say, oh, if it wasn't for this, and always give yourself excuses for not growing? Or are you going to look at it and say, this happened, but it made me this. I can use that as my motivation to do this. I can grow from it. I can learn from it. I can be this person because of this. I can do this because of this. Maybe you won't be like everybody else, but that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. The goal isn't to be like everybody else either. One thing that's essential to understand about life in general is that there's always a dark side, but there's always a good side. So we look at something and we see just the bad stuff of it, but there's a good light and there's a good part of it too. Oh, well, this person left me. Yeah, but with that being said, I also don't have them in my life when I went through this situation and was leaning on a broken staff. Maybe they left and betrayed me, but now I know where their heart really is. Now I know the way that I was hurting them, and I didn't even realize it. Maybe they left for noble reasons. I don't know. I don't know the situation. But my point being, there's always a light and a dark side, right? And I'm not talking about like God. God's pure good. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about our situations in life specifically. I'll give you an example. Love. Love is a good thing. Everybody wants love. Everybody desires love. But love requires loss. You might say, how do you mean? Well, I'll give you a simple, kind of a silly explanation, and then I'll give you a more serious one. You like a show, right? You watch it all the time. You grow to really be a part of these characters' lives, and then the show ends. You feel that sense of loss. You're reading a book, and there's a character that you really, really like, and then they die in the book, and you're like, oh no. Now a little bit more serious. You love a person. Maybe it's your wife. You love them. And then what happens? They die. Or they move. Or they leave you. Either or, your relationship is borrowed time. It doesn't last for forever. Why in the moment you live in it, knowing that at any moment it could be the last moment? See, we don't like that. We like to go through kind of like a days in life, like everything is just totally fine, and we'll never die, all that stuff. And that's just not really how the real world works. So love requires loss. And sometimes we get bitter because we don't really accept that in our life. And we're getting ready to wrap up, and this is I'll continue. I'll have to continue this in the next video. You may not have done everything right in your life, and people may have hurt you, but that gives you a chance to change, and it gives you a reason to try. Instead of fighting to prove yourself or get acceptance, instead of fighting porn in order to prove yourself or to get acceptance, or instead of doing porn to please yourself, instead of either of those options, fighting it to prove yourself or doing it to please yourself, face your hurt and face your wounded self. I know we'd like to keep that part buried, but you can't go through things and just not be affected. Oh yeah, my dad wasn't there for me. I'm fine. Lying about it isn't going to make it feel any better. In my time as a pastor, I've learned a few things. Typically, people don't have a gossip problem. They have a hurt problem. So they gossip. People typically don't have a porn problem. They have unresolved issues from their past. And really, we see that over and over and over again. People oftentimes talk about Hitler, and I'm getting ready to wrap up, and oh, he was such a bad guy, and I'm not definitely not going to argue that point. But sometimes the question is brought up: was he born that way? Well, we're all born as sinners, absolutely. But to say that we should have gone back in time if we could and kill him in his crib, I think that overlooks an important point. Hitler may have done bad things, and he obviously bad person, not arguing, but I wonder what brought him there. Hitler, for instance, fought in World War I and was very disgruntled, and then he sat and became bitter.